Well, it's an old debate. If you are politically aware, you probably would have talked about it at some point. Is the National Assembly making the nation's resources? Let's take a conversation forward. Now we have Professor Odinkalu, a former chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, a rights activist and a lawyer. He joins us here in the Lagos studio. Many thanks for coming on the program, Prof.
Thank you for having me, Sean.
Let's take up from this particular point. Do you think leaders in Nigeria, politicians, are earning way too much that the Nigerian state can afford?
I frankly am not as much bothered about what they earn as I am about their refusal to disclose what they earn. Because we pick up the tabs, Nigerian citizens do. And they owe us a duty to say, this is how much we earn. And it's not too much to ask. Senator Shehu Sani has done it. My good brother Waziri Adio has done it. Governor Kaede Fayemi did it. President Shehu Musa Yaradua did it. Umar Musa Yaradua did it, by the way. I did it when I was at the National Human Rights Commission in all modesty. I do think that public officers owe us a duty to say so. And to say that I'm disappointed that a senator who, by the way, his name is Sabi, which means that he knows a lot. Sabi is the Nigerian expression for know. That for a man who is called Sabi to come on television, and on national television for nearly 20 minutes, and to refuse, neglect, or choose not to tell us what he earns as a senator of the Federal Republic is offensive. And I am offended as a citizen.
As it stands right now, perhaps they didn't map up these earnings for themselves. It's regulated by RAMFAC.
I don't care who regulates it.
The question is that the cost of governance in Nigeria, is it immoral?
Yes, it is, actually. Now, you see, a lot of people look at the top-level figures, salaries. But the gist of government, actually, and the grist in that meal isn't in the salaries. It's in the allowances, the sitting allowance, the standing allowance, the restroom allowance, the hardship allowance, the other allowance, the mistress allowance, the sugar daddy allowance. Now, that's where this whole thing is. Are there such things? That's where this whole thing is. Well, what are those allowances for if it's not to sweeten stuff? Okay? Now, that exactly is where this whole thing is. People earning allowances for what they should be doing. And a lot of the allowances we get are colonial hangovers. Now, when the white folks were here, we used to book a passage for them to go home during the summer. And that passage would be booked for them to go by water and return by water. So it took a bit of time. And for that, they got what? Leave allowance. Today, we still continue to pay leave allowance for Nigerians who don't go anywhere but stay here. We stay here, we chew corn with the leave allowance on our streets, right?
Compared to world best practices, yes. Some of these breakdown of the allowances that we see for public office holders in Nigeria, yes, are they comparable to any part of the world?
Now, the question is, what do we aim to achieve with these things? That's the question. First of all, we don't even know. The Senate has not officially, or the National Assembly has not officially told us what they earn. That is offensive. The least they can do is disclose that. Now, the Freedom of Information Act, by the way, requires that this should be made available to us as proactive disclosure. But in the public service, everybody does what? Refuses to do so. I remember when I was in the National Human Rights Commission, my staff refused. Absolutely said no, over their dead bodies will they contemplate the idea of disclosing. And my view was, look, these are officially certified public records, okay? And they disclose what you earn, salaries, grade level, step this, step that. Why don't you put them in the public domain? For me, it saved me from having people come to me and say, oh, you're a public officer, you are now chopping Nigeria's money, because I will tell you this is what I am worth. Which part of that do you want to take? On the other hand, a lot of these people say, well, if you disclose what you earn, kidnappers will catch you. My father died naturally. No kidnapper ever touched him. Sheikh Husani has not suffered any kidnapping, to my knowledge. Waziri Adio has not been kidnapped. He's still walking the streets, and his family has not been kidnapped either. The people who get kidnapped, on the other hand, are the people who are doing what? Hiding what they earn. Why don't they disclose? That's the question.
One of the issues Professor Ishasagi has raised is how politics has stood in the way of anti-corruption war.
I don't think it is politics as such standing in the way of anti-corruption, as much as I love my uncle, Prof. Sage. I think the problem is that we have made politics the most profitable thing in town. Government is the biggest business. The richest people are civil servants. You think politicians are making money? Wait until you see the civil servants and the things that they do. You know, they write down things, they convert them to their own. They own the companies that bid for these contracts in government. They do all these rackets everywhere. Now, and the reason all of that is happening is because the system is opaque, okay? The system is opaque. There is no disclosure, proactive or retrospective. Everybody is playing the opaque system for private subsistence and private value. And that is why we worked hard to get the Freedom of Information Act in 2011, that we would begin to oxygenate the processes of government. And citizens would know what is happening, and knowing that, we'll be able to police things better. That is being resisted across the board. And by the way, I think President Buhari is part of the problem, not part of the solution. Because he's not told Nigerians why he went to hospital and for what. We picked the tab for that. He's not told, there's not been proper disclosure of his asset declaration. That we should not. So this is not a question of Senate and the executive. All of them are playing the same game. It's not PDP or APC. Both parties are playing by the same standards. There have been exceptions, and I've mentioned some of them. President Yaradua was PDP. He's an exception. Senator Sheikh Husani is APC. He's an exception. Waziri Adio does not have a party. He's an exception. Kayode Fayemi was opposition governor. He's an exception. But we should not be looking at these islets and islands of exception. We should be looking to the president, who promised, by the way, to be open and transparent, to set the tone. He's failed to do so.
If you look at the conversation, I know you're not a politician, but give us a sense of what you feel about this issue, the question of whether or not the president may be running in 2019, which throws up a very big question. Why wouldn't he run in 2019?
That's not my business. I'm not into that.
The question is about, you've just mentioned the issue about his health and the fact that he's not disclosed some of these issues.
Of course he's not disclosed anything.
When this kind of issues becomes a debate in a political party, what do you think is the major cause?
You see, the problem is this. There is so much verifiably factual inaccuracy. We were told the president was hale and hearty for so much, to the point where we began to think hale and hearty was an illness. Okay? Now, and then the president came back and said he had never been ill this much in his life. And the people who told us he was hale and hearty started converting to he's been ill and started abusing people who had been asking them to translate hale and hearty to us. Right? Now we're being told the president is fit as fiddle and funnier than, than a Nigerian, stand-up comedian. And, his sense of humor is this. Meanwhile, cabinet has only held for less than 2 hours for the past 3 weeks. Nigeria's business, ASU is on strike, resident doctors are on strike, the junior staff of universities, non-academic staff are going on strike from tomorrow, and cabinet is telling us that, they partied so much, they ate layer ram so much that they forgot to do their memos. And we're being told that rats and rodents are chasing our president out of office, and we're supposed to celebrate that and do what? Focus on 2019. I refuse to get into that nonsense. With all due respect, I think we're being insulted as citizens by people who should know better. Now, Lai Mohammed is not a medical doctor. Ayub, who was your, Mr. Yalo, he tweets as Ayub, right? Ayub is not a medical doctor. I'm not going to listen to them tell me about how fit the president is. I think it insults us. Now, let the people who are qualified to go into that speculation go into it. None of us, I'm not God, I don't want to play God. But I'm also not so daft that I'm supposed to sit down here, you know, and get patronized by people who have political purposes to serve. That just treats us like we are idiots.
Professor.
We are citizens,
Are
not
you,
idiots.